Where is it? And action. And welcome everybody. What?
And
That's really well.
Yes.
Action and welcome everybody. Double take. Welcome to PnP Weekly episode 222, which is 222.
Yes.
That's actually good. So thank you, Waldek, for correcting me there. I thought that we are already one ahead, so that's what's actually good. Now, this time we'll have a bit more special setup. So we're not going to do articles because of the timing of the recording of this one, because there's some business travel and all of that. But we will have a visitor in the show who's going to be Bert Jansen. Before we go there, typically in the show, we always have a visitor like today, and then we go through the weekly articles. As said, this week, we're not going to do that. We're going to do all of those articles within the next episode. Use PnP hashtag, PnP Weekly hashtag in the Twitter or X, so we know the cool stuff what you're building. I guess that's more than enough for the quick intro. Let's jump on the interview and let me play around with the system. And I'm adding Bert on the stage. And Bert is on the stage. Yay!
Hey, I'm here.
Yes.
You found me?
Yes.
And let me actually flip you there. So now we're in a good position. Excellent. So thank you, Bert, for joining on the show. You've been a few times on the PnP Weekly, but there's always good stuff to talk about. And this time we wanted to actually explicitly talk about one specific area where what people should be aware. But before we go there, can you do a quick intro? Finglish is catching it. Intros, who you are and what you do for a living.
Yeah, I can do that. Been around like 16 years at Microsoft now. All of my career. SharePoint,
almost as long as I have.
So. Almost as long as you, like half a year later. And you got me into SharePoint, but let's not really jump into that story
Oh, it was
for now.
you. Wow, now we know.
Yeah.
Back in 16 and a half years ago.
Yes. But SharePoint is my life at Microsoft for a big part. But doing different things, working with customers, ISVs, coding, doing product management, project management, data science, kind of a lot of things actually. Which
is it
I
something
like to
you
do.
are not doing?
Marketing.
Marketing. There you go.
That's true, because that's on my side, right? So
First, as a marketing manager, I deal with the rest. So
he's the operational side of the house.
No, but meaning I like to have different things to work on. I'm not like doing one thing and then focusing only on that one sole thing. So it's fine for me. So gives a lot of variation in the day-to-day job. But we're on the same team now with Vesa. So I think previous times I was in the show, we were still in different teams, but step by step, year by year, we kind of got closer to each other. And now
only took 16 years. So Waldek, one of these years, we will end up in the same team.
When I'm about to retire, Waldek, then
if that's going to take me 16 years, that you might no longer be working. You might say,
who knows?
You know what?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe we're still doing SharePoint and being super excited about portals. So you never know.
Yeah, within 16 years, I think I have different plans. But
really?
That's all. Yes, really.
So within 16 years, you will be 45, right now.
Exactly.
Sure. See the color?
Yeah.
I'm getting better.
More color.
What do you mean?
That doesn't say anything.
What do you
mean? Good.
It's funny that the color has been avoiding me, and I'm the longest in the company, and then it's.
Well, we're taking one for the team, so that.
Exactly. Thank you for that. Really cool. But yeah, so for a lot of the stuff that we do in a community side, actually, Bert has been fundamental of making things happen behind the scenes. And you're not super active in social media or anywhere else, but you do a lot of stuff. So if people would go to a GitHub profile, they would see a lot of stuff for sure.
Oh yeah, it's like all green dots there. If you look at the day-to-day profile, so yeah, a lot of things happening in GitHub, especially around PnP K nowadays, PnP framework. So the .NET side of the house, I would say. Not really that active in the other areas, but that's enough to keep me busy with the rest of the job.
Sure,
that's true.
Quickly looking at GitHub, so for whatever reason, between May and June, you have 3 days which are on gray. Other than that, they're green. So just calling it out. You're slacking.
Yeah.
Automated job, just a script uploading things, Vesa.
Well, my
That was the
automated job
one
failed.
day that it was down.
Yes.
Yes.
Not buying it.
That's fair
I'll
point.
shut up. You're ruining it.
Yeah. and to be honest, the GitHub profile has nothing to do with the value that people are providing and everything else. So it's not like everybody should be working. The classic joke or meme or whatever it was around some point in Twitter. It's like, why aren't you doing this? And somebody has a lot of green on it. It's just like, well, because I have life. Some of us, have a life
Are you
outside.
trying to say that we don't? I feel offended.
You're making conclusions out of anyway.
Well, yes, exactly.
And then Bert, you've been fundamental also on the PnP initiative from day one, which thank you for pushing on things already back in, when was it, 2013, 14?
2013.
13.
Like
on,
started
on that
internally.
note,
Autumn
maybe
2013.
That's actually 10 years from
actually,
internal thing. From a
we
public
forgot about
moment.
that, but it is
Yes.
almost 10 years now. Like
Yes.
for me, like maybe
Yes.
this month or next month, something like that.
So on that note, going way back, way back, right? Like you probably both know, the meme of the guy that dances at festival and here's the only one to dance, and then eventually the whole crowd.
Yep.
Was it like that on the day one and then the month one and the year one? And there's like was it exactly that? Like you were the only one trying to energize everybody and everybody came eventually? Was it like the really alone, the lone found thing or not?
I would say yes, kind of. So luckily, we had this connection on the work side that I can't even remember. How did you, Bert, jump on board on this immediately almost?
I
What
think
was
Your
I
your-
code probably didn't work and you needed somebody to help you.
No, I had a customer and meaning we need to do some
True,
things, and
yes.
then like, why do I need to invent everything? Why can't I share things? And
you found
then it was
the
the-
stuff what we were
then it-
doing for one
yeah,
other customer.
right. I connected there, and then from there on started to grow, and more people joined as well. And then
Sure.
I think most people know the story how it all kind of evolved.
But it's still actually coming back on that. I'm trying to remember. We were not connected before that moment. So somehow magically we got connected because of the project, because of the PnP, and you were basically the first one who started. Then we started doing stuff together related on our customer engagements,
Right.
and then pretty fast, because I was actually in the MCM program, the Master Certification Program for SharePoint. I had talked about open source community there. Some of these patterns in the MCM, and as this is how you should be doing things. We found quite fast then external people. No, but Paul and Irvin are coming. They're coming in 2014. No, first we have Schumann, and Steve Walker, of course. Steve Walker, Schumann, Frank was pretty fast as well. We were still internals. Yes.
Yeah.
But at that moment we were still internals, and there I can still find that was a Yammer group. Now there's obviously Engage, where we had stuff getting shared. And the project name was Gaps, which is actually kind of funny, because we were addressing gaps which were not part of the product. So it wasn't really a good name.
No, but that's a future-proof name, meaning that will apply. That will stay valid. There's always gaps to fix.
True. There's always gaps to fix. But yeah, that's actually true. Now that I'm thinking this, and maybe and again within a year we'll be having a public 10-year anniversary on the initiative and thinking and all of that. And obviously it's much bigger than me and Bert, and we're not even leading any of the stuff anymore. But of course we have our own individual projects. But the beauty of this stuff has been that it's basically self-sustainable, so to say. Right?
Well, I mean, I think it's a stretch saying that you're not leading any of that. I think that the world would look differently if you weren't around tomorrow. So for that,
but it would probably still continue doing stuff. So a lot of the projects are
one does not exclude the other, right? One does not
fair.
exclude the other. So
fair. But I
humble you kicking in like I am not leading it. Like, right.
I'm trying to get away from this. Come on, no, it's not going anywhere. It's okay.
Your resistance is futile.
Yes. But yeah, so and just to recap, I would just to summarize, we started in 2013 internally, then on SharePoint Conference 2014. That was the first time we went public with the name of Office App Model Samples, Office AMS, and then it transformed to be Microsoft 365 Developer Patterns and Practices in 2014 autumn, and that's when we moved to GitHub as well. And then we created the GitHub areas and all of that. And Microsoft didn't have an open source offices or anything, and as we went to the GitHub, people in Microsoft was like, why? Because we were not owning GitHub at the time. So.
I do recall on the GitHub thing like that. I think we were both in Redmond when we did that for the first time. I'm not sure over the conference anyhow, but like we had to try it like 5 times to get things properly on GitHub and understand how it works.
Sure.
And that's all kind
of. What is this Git push and pull?
Yeah. You used the TFS back in the days, and so there's some different concepts in it. So meaning, even we struggled back then. Like, so it's.
I'm trying to think back on Codeplex. Was that TFS or was that SVN?
TFS in the back end, I think. Codeplex.
Yeah, probably
TFS thing. Yeah.
Way different.
But that's all long time ago. Yeah. Git is really good. So I really like it.
Yeah, but it takes a while to, learn it and understand how it actually works.
Yep.
Now, related on that one, so that work started as a transformation tooling from on-premises to cloud, and then obviously there's multiple other initiatives now, kind of a spin-up on that, which is great, and it's no longer about the transformation as such, but there's still some work to be done on the transformation side, because we still have classic experiences in the SharePoint area as well. Hopefully, we'll clean up those. But Office adding model samples, adding model, all of that is a great segue. And one of the announcements which are coming up pretty soon. And this is, we talked about this one with Bert. I will take blame on this. I'm basically blackmailing Bert to talk about this one a bit ahead of time. But we will announce finally. We should have done this already a while ago. And the official deprecation of SharePoint Add-in model within upcoming month or so, right? Or weeks or month. It's in November. Let's put it this way. So yes.
Cool. On Wednesday.
On Wednesday. But before end of this calendar year. Can you be specific? So are you saying that add-in model, and I'm asking for myself because I know what's this, add-in model is going to be gone then by end of this year? What does this mean? What does it mean?
Well, people don't have to start kind of being afraid. Meaning, first of all, add-in models have been around like a long time. As you mentioned, when we started with PnP, they were there. So there's a long time ago. They're still around. We have good alternatives to SharePoint Framework, the developer platform to use for SharePoint development. So it's time to think about retiring add-ins. Now, retirement nowadays means for Microsoft, we do this in a fairly step-by-step approach and give people a long leadway. So when you see the announcement in the coming months, it will not be like, hey, within 1 year you have to be done, everything has to be moved, and all add-ins are over and stop working. That's not the case. So there will be plenty of time for you to, if you're an ISV or developer, to think about building a new solution using modern development techniques. So it's coming, but you have the option and the time to make the change, and we provide excellent guidance to actually help you. There is a ton of articles and videos that will help you understand like how to change feature X in the add-in model into something equivalent in new modern development paradigms.
Yep.
So with that, for the audience, I want to ask two things, because you mentioned that SPFX is alternative. It is to some things, but you can also use add-ins for for the long-running operation, elevating privileges and all that. Like you obviously cannot do that in SPFX. So one, like how would you deal with that? And two, what about on-prem?
Yeah,
good questions.
Two good questions. For the first one, the SharePoint Framework is running in the browser, right? So some things you shouldn't run in the browser. And with add-ins, you had kind of two flavors: the provider hosted and the SharePoint hosted. SharePoint hosted are the things running inside the browser. SPFX is really a good one-on-one mapping there. For the provider hosted, which would typically build in C#, for example, you would not run that in a browser. You can, depending on the type of add-in and what you did there, maybe make it a client-side thing only. But if you need a server-side, any SaaS solution will be fine. You can write some Azure functions, Azure ASP.NET Web Application, kind of port your .NET code. You can move to different stack if you want. So there's plenty of options for you to actually make that happen. I think the thing is, pick the platform and what works best for you, what today matches with your experience and the tooling inside your company, I would say. On the on-prem
Before we go there, just say, and then of course, this is basically Azure or Entra ID apps, right? So basically permission model on Azure AD, Entra ID apps, and then doing the whatever you're running, it's running in Azure AWS or whatever. It could be actually in AWS, but still, yeah.
Could be, we prefer Azure obviously, but in the end doesn't really matter. But yeah, Entra ID or Azure ID, Azure apps and Entra apps. Oh, I need to get really used to this sentence. But that's the thing that you really have to use no matter where you host it, right? So that's the way to authenticate towards SharePoint. So to be able to make a graph API and get some data back, for example. So yes, absolutely.
On-prem.
On-prem. So for the folks using on-prem, some have configured their on-prem setup to be able to install add-ins from the store, or you can install them like locally by deploying them to your app catalog. So the same concepts that we have in online exist on-prem as well. And there is not really an impact for on-prem, I would say. The different code paths, they evolve on a different kind of rhythm. Your add-ins that you install from the store for on-prem, you can still keep doing that. Now, at a certain point, if there's no add-ins anymore for SharePoint Online, there will not be many ISVs building anything anymore for on-prem either, because it's typically like you build for like the large audience, and you're happy to see that there's also some on-prem usage for those add-ins. So it will fade out, but there is no like immediate concern or worry for the folks using on-prem and having add-ins deployed there. I think that's
so in other words, like if we, let's say at some point sunset the model, what about things like ACS, which is kind of the fundamental block that allows you to authenticate from add-in? How would that, will there still be components available that allow you to authenticate through the add-in approach on-prem, or will that go away? And basically,
he's asking good questions, Bert. He's asking good questions.
Yeah, he's asking good questions.
So are we going to remove the fundamental components, the building blocks for add-ins on-prem that will just make it impossible for you to run it, and then you will need to either go back to, God forbid, out WSPs?
Yeah.
Or
which are, by the way, fully supported in
on-prem
so,
if you don't run the code on the box.
No, you have to go to full trust code. That's the future. Yeah.
Don't say things. People quote you. Yes, that was joke. No.
Joke. Rewind. Scratch that. So you talked about ACS. There is, with regard to ACS, there is no impact for SharePoint on-prem, right? ACS, and now we go a little bit sideways, but ACS is, for example, used for hybrid scenarios,
right?
In on-prem. If you have hybrid search and you want in online you want to see search results from on-prem or vice versa, that depends on ACS as being the authentication platform, the OAuth provider for on-prem. And you can do that also, developer use OAuth in on-prem with ACS connected to your production, to your Microsoft 365 tenant.
Yep.
All these scenarios, they stay working. That's fine. That being said, that's for on-prem. For online, story will be different. So now we're anyhow talking about things. Let's continue then. So also ACS will follow like a retirement path aligned with the add-in path, which is kind of obvious for if you're a developer using those techniques, because the provider hosted add-ins, for example, depend on ACS for the authentication needs for connecting back to. Often use ACS for connecting back to SharePoint. So both kind of follow like a combined retirement path, and both will be announced in a couple of months.
Yes.
So
By end of this calendar
what
year.
would be,
So
what will be then the server side development recommended approach for on-prem?
now we are kind of mixing topics, but if we stay in
Yeah.
on-prem, SPFX
We
server
are
side.
on-prem. We haven't
No,
moved
well, we
anywhere.
kind of touched a bit about
Yeah,
the
sorry. The ACS,
SharePoint.
yeah. Going
But
back
yeah,
to that.
so for on-prem, so again, the on-prem, it's not impacted. So the key here is on-prem stays. Adding model still supported in on-prem. It's not immediately going to go away. Now the connected model where you're acquiring from store, that's potentially is
Okay.
gradually going away because there's no offerings anymore in store for SharePoint add-ins, and that makes no sense. Now technically I would be highly surprised if there's a lot of customers who are using the adding model from store in on-premises. They've been using adding model, yes, but in the server. And what we see quite often, or what I saw when I still work with some of those customers, was that the store was even blocked. By default, by the way, in on-prem, add-ins do not work. You need to do quite a significant configuration with the DNS entries, routing, CNA, all of that stuff. So it's not like the most of the on-premises deployments even were using add-in model, because it was surprisingly complicated thing to set up.
It's complicated to set up, and if you want to have an isolated environment, it kind of feels weird to open up to the internet to get code from the internet to run in your isolated environment. So indeed, complex setup is there, and for provider-hosted add-ins, imagine for the provider-hosted add-in, there's a provider, a nice feed running a service that needs to be able to reach back into your farm. So then you have to expose your on-premises farm to the internet as a public endpoint.
That doesn't make any sense.
And in theory, that can work, but how many people are using that? There will be some, but meaning it's really low. And overall, add-in install volumes are also really low, even taking into account SharePoint Online. So it's not being like massively used at all anymore. So that's also the reason why we are retiring. If this would be a very hot technology and everyone was using it, then we wouldn't be retiring right now. But it's really fading out, and most people already jump ship and went to more modern patterns. But there's a few around, and we'll help them with this retirement cycle.
And super specifically, coming back on Waldek, your question, SPFX and then the backend in .NET servers hosted outside of the server. I would not actually install.
How would you do auth?
Windows auth.
Okay,
Works.
so NTLM, Kerberos, whatever, kind of the same things we used to do in the past. Okay.
Identity in a browser, that leaks directly on the other side. That's that typical setup, kind of a classic setup. Now,
nothing has changed in other words.
Well, I would try to avoid farm solutions for sure. They're still fully supported, which is something which still is there. But again, the operational. Operational overhead with farm solution is quite significant, and there's quite a lot of risks involved, as then you are modifying server side of your SharePoint server. That's kind of a mind-boggling.
The opportunity.
Yes, I know. And me, like 15 years ago, saying this out loud would be like, what has happened? Have you sold your soul? What is exactly?
Crazy person.
You don't understand. But yeah.
On the add-in SES, I want to just add one more thing before we maybe change topic or so. There is also tools for you as a customer or consultant working for a customer to discover the usage of add-ins and ACS in your tenant. So the Microsoft 365 assessment tool has a new module that enables you to run assessment across your whole tenant, across all your site collections, and get like a nice Power BI report showing you like here are the add-ins being used, and the add-ins came from the store, or they came from the local lab catalog, and so on. They were installed that date by that person. All details are there, and also the ACS setup is there. So ACS principals with their permission, so you can see like, hey, there's a principal created with tenant full control. Should I have that or not? You can see how the principals are linked to the actual provider-hosted add-ins, if there are. So you have all the details there, kind of making a plan. So you don't have to go blind and hope it will end up well. No,
Yeah.
run assessment. You have the facts. Decide what is still relevant for my company. Quite often things are not relevant anymore, but if there's things still relevant, then you at least know where to start from and which are the ones to work on.
It's almost.
What was the name of the tool again for the
The
audience?
Microsoft 365 assessment tool. It's an open source tool, by the way, in the PnP GitHub repo. So
Written by who? So who
Say.
has written that?
some a team wrote it.
A team. Your team?
My
Yes.
team.
Yes, Bert's team. Who was the primary developer of this tool? That's
We always call them we.
True.
Maybe I have a problem in my head. I don't know.
Is it the plural royalty? The plural we?
Yeah, but anyway, so and the assessment tool actually have multiple other modules as well. So as an example, a few years back we had a big push on modernizing portals, classic portals and classic pages.
Sandbox too, right?
And sandbox analysis was there. There was a lot of like analyze tooling, and it's built on this brilliant framework with multi-threading and all of that. So it's able to actually catch up on doing things a bit more efficiently, and of course it handles the throttling and all of that away. These operations are quite challenging, so to say, because this is basically using client-side APIs to scan the whole tenant to understand the settings, because those server-side APIs doesn't exist, or the analytics or insights doesn't exist in the product. So
it works really good, meaning I can say that.
I'm using myself every day. I'm using it myself every day.
No. But let's say we have enough stats and data to show that it really runs. For the largest tenants, it might run for days, but that's fine. It does indeed handle throttling, and really, if you're building that type of code, check out the code to see how we do it. It handles throttling. It handles the rate limiting, for example. So actually, it seldom will do little throttling, because it will just wait in time to not get throttled. So it's
Nice. That's very neat. Like, if anything else, it sounds like a great reference just to even learn how to write this code.
Absolutely.
Yes, fully open source. So community-led initiative. So and which can be an MIT license as well, so people can technically craft the code and reuse that any way they want, which is really cool. So
nice. That's really cool.
Where did we come up with this open source stuff? I don't know. So right, Bert? Well, what?
Yeah. we drank too much 15 years ago.
So maybe if I can put you a bit on a spot, Bert. You are a software engineer at Microsoft, right? Like, we are a profit company.
Not for long. Not for long.
Not for long anymore. No.
Not for long is Bert an engineer, or not for long are we a profit company? Just to make it really clear for the audience.
Yes.
Let's go
Bert
for the
is
first
changing
one.
his title. So
yeah, okay, fair enough. Like, but I mean, like,
And no changes, by the way, on his role. He's not going anywhere, right, Bert? Just to be super clear on that. So, yes.
I try to get a new title each 2 years, more or less. So in this, we're at that point
you
again.
can just add like 2 or 3 behind that.
Yeah.
What's your why do you spend your time working on open source?
Why? Just because.
Yeah. Like, what's in it for you?
For me, I just like to help people, get people to use software, and just that kind of gives me some satisfaction. Kind of feedback from people, like, I use it, it works, I'm happy with it. And also linked to my internal objectives, driving usage, growing the community, all these things play a role as well.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of different things that motivate me to do this work.
But that took actually quite a long time. So it's actually, nowadays we do have objectives and OKRs on the community side, and growing the open source and all of that stuff, which is awesome, by the way. But it took like 8 years to get to that point that we finally got an official OKRs on growing the community, because quite often what happens in Microsoft, this is also for the kind of explaining for definitely for the external audience, is that and I don't think it's a Microsoft specific thing. It's more on how big companies work and profit-driven companies work, which is we focus on projects, initiatives, and then we show the impact and move forward, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. The challenge of this kind of an open source project, and we talk about this one with Waldek also so often, is that this is a long-term sustainable engineering. It's not a spikes on things. And of course, inside of that long-term sustainable engineering, we do experiments and tests and everything else, but it's not the typical way how engineering works in Microsoft. So it's even in especially actually, I would say, especially in Redmond, they are having hard time, or they used to have even more hard time understanding, well, why are we having this work doing this stuff? Luckily, that has changed. So,
I think the situation has changed for the good, meaning I think we all can also spend some more time of our, let's call it billable time on open source, on community.
That shows how you're a net consultant. So.
Yes.
Billable time. Like,
billable
wow,
time.
what was the last time I sent
Utilization
for my time?
Right.
YouTube. Oh my God, brings back memories.
Don't bring back those memories. No. It was a good time as well, but things have changed.
Yeah.
Different things right now. So, but overall, I think as Microsoft, we made as a company, really made large steps forward when it comes to help community and open source and helping out folks. So, there's more to do. Obviously, we're not there, but I think we're doing good.
And I think we talked about this one in the show in the past as well, but I'm not sure actually. We talked about it. There's an interesting also, let's say, regional and a country level, cultural level differences on this, and that comes from Europe. We're always been more on, let's take care of our village, and everything is fine. It's not about individual necessarily as much as it is about the village, because then the village, goodwill of the village will mean that you will have goodwill as well. And that's not necessarily always the case across the world because of multiple, cultural, historical reasons. The approaches are a bit different. So
that's
it's.
True.
And that's been taking a while, for example, in Microsoft, which is a US-based company, to kind of adapt that mental mindset where we are like, well, why are we giving this guy for free to help the community and customers? Well, because if we help the ecosystem, we benefit out of that as well. And then the logical question is, okay, show me the correlation. Well, that's hard.
Yeah.
That's incredibly
Good luck
hard.
with that. Well,
Yes
and no. Yes and no. I think that if you are willing to look deep enough, you will see that. Like, you will see that based on the apps people use and the apps people build. You will see that based on the way the apps are being built, right? And the kind of the advancements that are there. So I think you will see that, but it's not trivial. It's not like obvious. You turn this knob here and instantly there's this thing. Like, it takes time because again, like with anything else, you're probably like, imagine that you wanted to kind of come up with a new part to build a house, or even new way to build a car. It will not be allowed to drive on an open street immediately. Like, it has to be certified, verified, and like that takes time. And it's the same thing here. People build something, it takes time because like you're basically putting a bet on something you take from internet. Who's to say that it's there to stay? And if it's gone, then what does that mean for your work? So I think it's just like that long tail of adoption and building trust is really a key thing here. Like, there is no such thing as overnight adoption, especially in open source, right? Because you are taking a dependency on something else.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's also good that we maybe also don't really move around that fast. So if you have an organization where people move around like each 2 years, which is pretty common in the US, in the US side of Microsoft, then it's also harder to build up this kind of community and consistency because new people, new objectives, new visions, and so on.
Yes,
that's good as well. But you have to have a mix of both, I would say, I think, to keep the model going.
You definitely need to have new ways of thinking and fresh thinking, but then you need to have that, the trust comes from sustainability and the the consistency is king. We talked about that one so
but
many
it's
times.
hard because it's such a multi-faceted thing, right? Where on one hand you've got a person, their ambition, their career, their drive, and again, there are only so many hours in a day and a week, and you can spend them only once, and everybody decides for themselves the way they want to live their life, right? So you factor that in. Two, there is the market opportunities, technology, ecosystem, like we've seen this year, AI. Feels like it fell out of the blue and affecting everything, right? It's just like, it's hard sometimes to even see the world beyond AI because everything's AI. It's such a big thing. Again, we adopt to that, which is also a good thing, but it also means that, well, given the limit of hours in a week, we do that so that we're not doing something else. And that has, again, impact on things. So it's really, really hard. Like, there is no single simple answer to that other than, the physics. It takes time to build trust. Right? Like, that is kind of like the basic thing. Like, there's non-negotiable thing. And then based on that, you have to find, okay, so given the changes, the dynamics, the retention in personnel, how do we marry these two?
Sure. That's an interesting challenge for sure, always. But
on that
trust,
optimistic note.
Yes, on that optimistic note. And now, just related on the AI, let's do a quick chat on that one, and then round up on what's happening within your calendar next week. I know that, but just talking about what's happened. But you, Bert, are actually driving a lot of the AI thinking also, or some of the AI thinking in the platform side of our organization. Do you see the AI being a mind-bogglingly different for developers? Do we could throw everything away what we have right now, and AI is the replacement of everything, or how do you see the transition? Was that a bit leading question?
No. But, in my view, AI definitely is not like any form of replacement for development, right? But it will make life easier for developers. That I'm 100% convinced of that, and I've just experienced that on a day-to-day basis. If you write code and use, for example, GitHub Copilot, it's really good. It's amazing, and it does help, and it just gets better and more flexible, and so I think that I would see it in that direction, like just as a really like a Copilot. That name has some notion. But it's like someone really helping you drive along and do things more productive and faster and better. That's where we are today, and we're still making the first steps, I would say. In my view, there's still a lot of things that can be improved, and if you start playing with things, I think Copilot is out already for some experiences like Office and more coming. Works great, but there's still, if you envision what it can do, it should be able to do even way more. So there's a long road of things that to be added to our AI Copilot story, also for developers. So we are thinking about brainstorming about what can it be, and or planning what it will be. So, but I think it's really too early to give details there.
Now, on the social media this week or last week, there was already the pictures related on the latest ChatGPT and DALL-E, DALL-E 3, things. And then the one of the classic demos was like, hey, we don't need developers anymore. We'll just take a screenshot out of the solution, and it will build the whole SaaS application for me. That was the storyline. And so, will that be reality, or what's your take?
What do you think?
But that's actually good when you think about it. So if there are leadership and the leadership level leadership team level people, CXO level people who are not that familiar with technology and writing code and really kind of understand what the writing code actually means, those kind of demos are incredibly harmful for the whole IT ecosystem, because we give this impression on, well, you don't need this stuff anymore. We don't need developers anymore. We just take a screenshot.
Yeah, but everyone who we did like a slightly larger project, just let's say at a company, not like a home project or a student project, where it's like very simple test of something. Once you go beyond that, it can give you a starting basis, but there's a lot of work to do to make it production ready and maintainable and performing and so on. So, but it is pretty cool, and the demos are really cool, where you take like a picture of a Figma file and say, here, give me the HTML, and that will kind of scaffold something which is decent, but it's not good enough, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it will eventually be good enough at a certain point, but today
I don't
definitely
know.
not.
I think it seems to me like, the holy grail where we want to be, and this is not the first time we're at it.
True.
There's like every few years, there's new advancement with new way to generate code and this and developers. It's like, I've been around in professional IT career since 2006 or so. I think this is a third wave or so of like, we don't need devs anymore. And yet again, here we are.
Yeah.
So,
and we have a massive demand for developers. So we have
and
hundreds of thousands of
all research shows there's going to be more demand for devs. There's not enough devs, and it's only going up, right? And the whole thing, like, of course we aspire to do that, and to kind of like, I see a huge thing for it to eliminate the mundane work. Like you writing a million tests, but even then, you get a bunch of code spit out by a machine. Who's to say that it's right? Like, I'm using it almost the whole day now, and it's like, for some things it's great, and for some things it gives you like hallucinates, right? It gives you things that aren't there, like wrong properties, non-existing stuff, and you're asking it back. It's like, oh yeah, my bad. It's like, okay, like how about you kind of loop yourself to double check your own answers first before giving them to me and having like. So I think it's easy to get the first thing, but then the moment that breaks, or the moment you need to adjust something based on the code you don't understand and you didn't write yourself, all the time you won by not doing it initially, you will lose twice by figuring out what it has.
That's why I think that it really works well if you generate small snippets, like a few lines of code, like a little method or whatever, something small. I mean, it's something you can oversee. Once the demos where they generate like 10 files and a whole project structure and so on. Sorry, but that if you have to try to get that to work and debug and change something in there, it will be easier to just start over again. So
it's almost like in the Power Apps, pretty recently we had some new feature. You can just draw on the paper and show it to the picture, and then it will basically create that. Yeah, but not really. So it's okay.
However.
And we used to have this in a Visual Studio as well. If you think about all of the toolbox, the controls in the toolbox, all of that stuff, and you can just drag and drop and make
the same, like converting Visio drawing to workflows.
Oh that was one thing.
Yet another example, right? And like how many, I think if you go back in time, like there were so many things where you could start like low fidelity thing, like a sketch, or like drawing few things and then convert it to an form or an app. And it's like, and every time it was like, not quite.
Exactly.
Indeed.
But it's a great demo. It's a great demo.
It's a great demo, yeah.
Great storyline and sensational. Like it's just sensational. Like, do we need devs?
One thing I think we can improve, we'll see improvement, is that you mentioned that it hallucinates, does wrong things, which is true, depending how you configure things, how it was kind of built by the team delivering the service. But there's more and more focus on getting accurate data, accurate input, real-time data in the models, because they're trained, they have a certain cut of data, and they only know about until that particular date if your thing changed afterwards. So let's say you have a new SPX release afterwards. The LLM doesn't know about it.
New API,
new SDK, new APIs,
new docs.
And you will see more and more kind of plugins appearing, models appearing, where you can actually enrich and plug in your own data and make it accurate. So I think the quality with that will increase over time, because it will be able to use accurate data for giving you a response.
So that's an interesting point, because the other day we've seen an announcement that ChatGPT, I believe, is now able to reach out to the internet already by itself. So
the Bing
so will we see?
and
also another angle is as AI becomes more commodity and it becomes cheaper to use and so forth and so on, which of the three things do you think we will see? Do we see increase in plugins? Do we see AIs and LLMs being able to just go out to the internet and fetch whatever they need by themselves? Or do we see more near to real time building LLMs so that they have access to the latest stuff without bothering us with plugins?
I think
All of
the last one will depend on the cost.
Yes.
If we can train them really fast and low cost and
Yes.
host them more with less resource needs, then yes, that thing is definitely a way forward. And there's a lot of investigation going on to models which are more compressed and like multiple smaller LLMs orchestrated by a larger LLM. That kind of thinking is ongoing. So I think we'll evolve in that direction over time, but will take a while. Plugins, I think, yeah, sure, that will be a thing. Will grow. Will be more plugins. Will be easier to develop them. So that's the way to get your actual data in. And depending on the scenario, like if you do like a web search for something you need to know, it might return the good thing, but typically the first thing is not always the good thing, right?
True.
And if you
the
say
first thing's are the ads.
yeah, that's just, but the LLM will not reason over the results. So it will do a search query and get the data, take the first few hits, stuff them in the prompts, and then say use this data to give an answer.
Yeah.
If that first data is more curated by a team, let's say we have like a set of SPFX related content where we say this is good, this is what we want people to use, this documentation, these are the samples, etc. Here are the FAQs and so on. If you give that, then you get a good response.
Yeah.
So I think that's
So we could-
the second thing
also
there.
means that there has to be people still curating that stuff.
100%. 100%.
I think so. Yes.
And-
yes.
And that's basically, if you think about the existing LLMs and the large language models and everything else, there has been a lot of people involved on saying, this is correct, that's bad, this is correct, bad. The classic story on how does a machine learning or AI understands the difference between a cat and a dog.
Yep.
That's not a simple task. That's like, yeah, but those are tails, yeah, and all of that stuff. But as a human being, it's instant. Immediately, is it a cat or is it a dog? Computer.
Well, until you get a breed that you haven't seen, and you're like.
But typically, you can still reason because
we're going sideways. Let's make a universal definition of cat and dog.
But something what you said, which is interesting, is that we should kind of whitelist the information or promote the information which is the most relevant for the AI. So this is basically validated. Now, the interesting thing about that one is that if you think about metadata in internet pages and how we built the Google and Bing at some point, that was all based on the metadata and basically information on the inside of the page. We could do something similar with the information
who will be the judge, right?
Correct.
Because everybody
That's
wants
the challenge. Precisely the following step, which is like, okay, then who decides which of this is more authoritative than the other one? Well, that's a problem. Exactly.
Right. and there the plugins come into play, because then you as a user, you say like, I want to use this plugin of these set of plugins when I use the AI functionality.
Yeah.
And you pick the author. Let's imagine there's a plugin that brings SPFX and graph data, which is the Microsoft official curated content set for SPFX and graph.
Yes.
And you're a developer, you can plug that into your developer experience, and you can ask something about SPFX, so generate a SPFX code snippet, and it understands that it can also look inside that data set. Then you get something really useful, I think.
Yeah, and then
that's not that far off.
On us to curate the data that is coming back, that is relevant and up to date and the most important.
Yep.
And of course, as part of this, we end up having this the authenticity, the diversity and inclusive discussion. Who's making those decisions, even in Microsoft, versus the bias of the data and everything else. But again, it's just the conclusion is that this is not a simple task to do.
It can be a community project, or a community maintains a curated list of resources that they feel they should belong to the official set of SPFX documentation. As taking an example.
Sounds like something that could be potentially gamed if you get enough votes, like the kind of the Wikipedia kind of thing where it's owned by an open thing, and if you've got enough credits,
What
you
can't the
could
game
potentially
think?
create a page that is rubbish.
Yep. True. I think we're on something, but let's leave that to them. So that's actually really good.
I mean, if anything else, it will be interesting to see, because I think that if that's going to happen, it's going to introduce a new kind of job that we currently do not have.
True. And most likely
Somebody-
this is the logical direction where we are for sure heading, because again,
Yeah,
it's not about the amount of do we have the data. The data exists.
Mhm.
It's the accuracy of the data is the problem. And if
which
you build
data
in
is the
AI
most relevant
correct.
for, so it's kind of, you have to have the technical chops in order to be able to judge the data,
Yes.
but then you also
Mhm.
need to be data skilled, so kind
if-
of librarian meets developer.
Well,
If
like,
the
don't
AI
worry. You can stay working until you retire in tech. So
Yes,
no
exactly.
worries. Please
So
calm down.
in
Calm down.
16 years we'll have this discussion, right? That was we
Yes.
started the the podcast on that 16-year
Where the AI
reference.
will be in 16 years. Library.
Anyway, what's happening the next week on your side? Anything interesting? Well, I know what Bert is doing because I know I'm doing that way too.
What are you doing?
What are you
What are
doing?
we doing, Vesa? Can we tell that? I think so.
I think we can in high level talk about what we're doing. So I
Right.
guess it's and to be fair, we're releasing this podcast after next week. So whatever we're saying happening next week has already happened.
If nothing dramatic happens in between, but
Okay, what have you done? Come clean.
No.
What have you done?
So I think we're just playing around on how much details we can actually share. But we're both, the whole team is flying to Redmond, which is pretty cool, and doing a lot of initial semester planning and brainstorming and all of that stuff on multiple areas. So a lot of busy days related on so and basically on the flatboard and really trying to come up with plans and things which we should focus on and all of that stuff. There's a lot of initial thinking already done, but then it's good to be in the same room. And it's been a while to drop by at the office.
That's cool. That is cool.
So
looking forward to it. Yeah, it'd be great.
yeah, as well. It's been a while since I've been in a campus, as well. So it's really good. So,
Apparently, it changed a lot.
We'll have meetings in a new building, so there will be some different.
Oh yes, we do.
Have you
Yes,
ever
but
been to the tree house?
no, not in Treehouse.
There you go. You have to be there. You have to.
Yeah, we could drop by at the Treehouse.
You have enough of these in Finland, right? Yeah,
it's pretty close by. So most of the us will be in building 34 for most of the time, but then we have some visits on just the brand new buildings as well, which there's few of them already, ready to go. Most of them are still in the middle of. They're doing this multi-tens and tens of square meters and square feet additional space. It's just mind-bogglingly big area what they're building right now. So
nice.
Will be cool to see that whenever it's ready. So. Cool. What about you, Waldek? Anything interesting?
I am
happening
not going to Redmond.
You are not, unfortunately. Yes.
Yeah. No, I am in the middle of working. We are a new like if anybody cares to pay attention to my work the last weeks, it's a lot about connectors for Graph, right? So unraveling like what it is, what it's working, how it's built, and I've built actually a few of them, and it's pretty cool tech. Even to the point where a colleague of mine got me stoked on building one in Python. So I've built literally in 2 days' time with the help of AI. I learned Python.
Cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool because like when you think about like the way you learn, like I can code. I know about things like variables and arrays and all the patterns. Like the only thing that I need to know is what are the Python specific things so that I won't end up writing C# in Python.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right, because like it has things like it has a construct of a class, but also it has the same thing where you've got in JavaScript where a file is a module, so you don't need a class. So it's this really intriguing thing, like how you. It's the first time I went through that experience, learning a language in that way. Like, have just AI being a sidekick and tell me what are the differences that I need to know to be able to write an app. And like the first app that I wrote is basically a connector, and it's not a trivial thing. Like it's not like a to-do thing
Sure.
or a hello world. So it's like I am knee deep in doing all kinds of stuff, and it's really, really cool. Like it's almost done. So yeah, it's really exciting to like, hey, like I am genuinely excited about learning new tech.
That's really cool.
I
That's
learned
good.
a thing.
Yes, that's really cool. Python is gaining a lot of popularity as well, so it's good to good language
Especially
to
in
learn.
the
So,
AI space, ML space, it's really big, because of all of the packages that are available to working with that.
true.
Yep,
True.
it's the AI. All of the AI is done with Python. It used to be done only with Python. More languages are there now, but also LLMs are really well trained on Python. They understand it really well because it's a lot of samples that they kind of been using, feeding it are Python.
Cool. Anyway, I think that's it. I just realized that on this no meeting Friday, I'm just a few minutes late from my next meeting. So, but that's all good. So, thank you, Bert, for joining. Really good discussion and multiple areas, and I'm looking forward to actually catching up on next week as well. It's been a while since we met. Been actually physically in the same location. So. Which is cool as well. Sorry, Waldek, you're not there, but we'll meet in the ESPC, which is happening later November. So that should be good as well. I think all of us will be in ESPC, which is great.
Oh my God.
in Amsterdam.
Yes, indeed. Cool. But thank you everybody for watching or listening. As we started the recording today, we will not have articles on this episode because we're recording this off the normal schedule. We'll have more articles on the next one. Bert, thank you. Our pleasure. Waldek, we'll be back within a week, right?
And for two of you, enjoy your trip, and I'm looking forward to hearing stories.
Excellent. Cheers. Later. Cheers, everybody.
Bye-bye.